All right, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dank Swank, the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web. This is Mr. G speaking. I'm here with Mr. J, our editor, and today we are going to be discussing Capcom's recent, happened just today, their recent showcase for Resident Evil 8 Village. We're just going to be discussing that and just some of the stuff we found interesting, talking about some of the things that some of the questions we still have and certain parts of the presentation we might have found just kind of we're going to share our hot takes on it, suffice to say. With that in mind, I don't know if you want me to detail like how we were originally, like how we might have been were up to like be like a co-streamer with them. Should I mention that or talk about that, or is that
Yeah, I'll talk
all
about
right?
it.
Cool.
So yeah, I signed us up to be co-streamers because I guess they would like doing some sort of partnership with YouTube channels and Twitch, like Twitchers or Twitch people or whatever they're called. So basically, you could sign up to just like feature the stream on your channel,
Yeah.
and I signed us up for that, but it turns out work got in the way because I have training for a new job I just got, and
Yeah.
completely got in the way, so we weren't able to do it, unfortunately.
I didn't quite have the technological means of doing it in his place, unfortunately. That said, in a certain way, it would have been, and I have mentioned this to before, but it would have been better if Mr. J, I think personally, was to be the one, because I know a few names. I know T-Virus this, Chris Redfield that. But in terms of general themes and storylines, I am far from a Resi head compared to him. Yeah, so actually, with that in mind, your take is going to actually be incredibly valuable, I think, in this discussion. Just because you have so much more knowledge of it, I feel like. I don't know.
I mean, been a Resi fan for life, basically, since
Yeah.
I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Basically since the beginning, almost. Which is
Not necessarily. Like,
yeah.
the first game I played was Resident Evil 2 back for the PlayStation 1.
I see.
That was like back in like 2002, 2003, around there, when I was in like 3rd, 4th grade.
I see. Sick. But still the locked sort of CCTV camera angles and everything.
Oh yeah, those were the best though. Honestly, I love those games.
I mean, there is a certain appeal to it. It's like I mean, you don't really know what's around the corner, do you? That said, this game's going to be very different from all that. It's going to be first person, which is, I mean, sort of following along with Resident Evil 7, which I suppose makes sense considering how much of a hit that was, and all of which is filling the void left by things like PT. Which is part of the reason I think that their shift to a first-person perspective was so successful, and why they're continuing it. Before I get any further, I do want to mention, though, just to start things out, how ridiculously short the showcase was. Like, I go on to watch it after it came out, and it's an hour long. I think, oh my goodness, and then only like 15 minutes of that is actually the showcase. And the rest of it's just like, oh, we're waiting to start. Oh, it's over, Which I found kind of hilarious. It's like, wow, it's not really much you can fit in there. I wouldn't think, anyway.
Yeah, it was definitely surprisingly and disappointingly short, and I don't think a lot of people had like a lot of high expectations for this because they thought like Resident Evil 4 remake was going to be announced.
Yeah.
Just because they've been hinting at it for so long now. Like, even in the showcase, they were, like, having little mini, like they were kind of hinting at it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could tell.
And it would make a lot of sense for them to just do it, too. Like, I mean, they had the Resi 2 remake in 2019. They had the Resi 3 remake, as people jokingly call it, in 2020. So, I mean, it only makes sense that Resident Evil 4, the one that most people would consider, or a lot of people would consider the best one, basically what Call of Duty Modern Warfare was to that franchise, the fourth game is to Resident Evil, is what a lot of people, have said, talking about how it really shot it into the stratosphere and, and changing the direction and everything. So I'm kind of shocked that they didn't. I mean, then again, they have done a bunch of remasters, so maybe they figure that's enough. Like, because I mean, it's like, well, what are we gonna do? We've already got the third-person version of this game, technically. So I don't know. I'm not Capcom. I don't know how they think, but you know.
I don't know. I think they might wait till like E3 E3 this year, whatever
Yeah.
they're doing for E3.
Yeah, whatever
this
E3
year
is going to be,
to announce it.
if it's going to be.
Yeah, or saving it for some PlayStation, like some PlayStation presentation.
Yeah.
Later on this year.
I was happy to learn though that speaking of consoles and stuff, that it was not going to be that they were going to try to make it so that it would port to previous gen, or like as they were saying current gen, which I guess, considering how few people other than scalpers have access to a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, it still is, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are still current gen. I guess, just out of, the fact that nothing else is really available for most people. But yeah, with that in mind, I was happy to hear that, but it also kind of makes me nervous because it's like, I mean, we've seen a lot of, look at Cyberpunk 2077. That's an example of a recent game that's pushing graphical limitations, and you can tell because it just sort of farts out on previous gen machines, like very poorly optimized. So I worry that it's might be a similar situation.
Probably not. The RE engine has been shown to work really well with like any platform that you play it on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Blackmagic Capcom used to like make their engine run basically smooth on any platform, but whatever they're doing, it's working.
Yeah, clearly it's. I mean, I'm really impressed by the visuals of it. And I mean, just watching the various interior shots, it seems like it's all like a baked-in sort of thing, which probably might help take. I would think that would help to take a lot of strain off of the CPU and GPU and stuff. Like a lot of processing power wouldn't need to be devoted to that. Like all the like reflections and everything, that's just all baked in, and that way they don't have to worry about that. It makes it easier to make something just look so pretty, because it's like, well, we can run it at a stable frame rate and this, with a high resolution and high quality textures than we would otherwise. So yeah, with that in mind, I mean, I guess you're right. Cyberpunk has all this other stuff it's got to worry about, all these randos running around a big open world and stuff. So I don't know. I guess that is something that plays to the strengths of the engine. Not to say that the engine isn't great, but like I'm sure that it helps that it's all like locked in sort of small environments where draw distance isn't nearly an issue, because the farthest you're able to look in any direction, because it's just going to be like 10 or 15 feet because of the walls.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure that helps.
I think what also helps is that Capcom has a history of basically, using pre-rendered like backgrounds and a lot of its original titles for the PS1.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of experience with just creating these really highly detailed, intricate,
Yeah.
like backdrops for a lot of its games, and all the games also ran pretty well back in that
Back in the
back
day,
in that
yeah.
era too, was because like they weren't having to render 3D environments at all. It was all just kind of a static image.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like they're using that same strategy here, where they're like kind of superimposing like a lot of detail, using like photogrammetry,
Yeah.
as part of its like ace in the hole in terms of really adding a lot of detail to the game environment and not using a whole lot of resources
And making it look unsettlingly real, drawing you further into it, along with the first person perspective, making it really creepy and unsettling. Yeah. With that in mind, I mean, just like talking about the environments in a certain way, like even though graphically it seems to be very much very modern and potentially even futuristic with the level of detail that they're presenting with it, it does seem like they're sort of, in terms of like the backdrop for it, it seems almost like a return to form. Like, there's a village, there's a big, there's a castle, essentially just a big mansion that they're going into. It seems like they're going back to like where Resi's been most successful, 4 and like the first few games.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And
bringing in the mansion, the castle, it's all a callback to Resident Evil 1's mansion and Resident Evil 4's castle.
Oh yeah.
Castilian Spanish like setting.
Yeah. I've sort of speaking of going back to 4, I was also kind of freaked out by the villain, the new villain. It's sort of another sort of eccentric weirdo that they've got in there. She's she's in like a white dress with a big flowing hat. She's like 7 feet tall. She's dressed like she's going to church in Atlanta in the early 20th century. Like, yeah, she's freaky. And you, what was it that you described her as? A dominatrix or something?
Yes.
Yeah, like.
She's a big mommy milky GF.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, except
goth.
Yeah, goth milky Gia. Except the milky is not. It's like a what is it? I guess it's more like Tabasco. She seems kind of just kind of like burning, like just uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not exactly a nice person.
People are into that though.
Yeah,
people
that's
have
true.
Their kinks. She fulfills a certain fetish.
Yeah, for some poor godforsaken people. The Resident Evil fan base. Ooh, burn! Ooh. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I am not one to judge other people's fan bases. I like Forza Horizon. Who am I to judge fan bases? It's like, look at my peers. Like a bunch of like idiots and 12-year-olds who play Minecraft on the side. Let's just isolate every fan base.
It's probably the game that their parents make them play because they can't play because they're too young to play Call of Duty or something.
Yeah, I mean, we should hope. You're just kind of shocking how many parents let their kids play Call of Duty at like 8 years old. Mommy, I learned a new word. It starts with an N and ends with I can't complete this sentence. Anyway, I'm taking this far off the rails. Back to the main storyline. Just another thing that's kind of interesting, sort of, spoiler alerts for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard if you have not completed it. But sort of along the same lines, this game, like it's set in a new location with a few new people, but it seems to like, it has like a person there for continuity, like a returning character. Who is our returning character, Mr. J?
It's Chris Boulder punching Redfield.
Yeah. Chris Boulder punching, occasionally Boulder fondling Redfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
And wanting Leon to screw his sister, Redfield.
Yeah. Very, very complicated relationships and weird Freudian stuff from Redfield. Didn't he have massive muscles in the 5th game? Like ridiculously huge biceps.
Like steroid. And like,
yeah.
Steroid level muscles.
Yeah.
It's all good though.
Yeah, I mean,
he's still pretty swole.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, he's got to be, right? Doesn't he have a beard in this one now? He's got kind of a what's its face? A Joel from The Last of Us look going.
Yeah, I mean, well, they brought back his original like design from like the previous games because in Resident Evil 7 they kind of redesigned him.
Oh, that's right.
And a lot of people weren't happy with that, so I don't know if like I'm hoping that's actually what it is, and it's not like people like what people think it is, which is that like somehow this isn't Chris Redfield, this is some other completely different person that's an imposter.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people are theorizing because of the drastic like character change.
Well, yeah, like
design.
in the first like the reveal trailer they had on the original PlayStation, the PlayStation Showcase like last year, doesn't he just straight up cap somebody, like for no reason?
Oh yeah, he caps Ethan's wife.
Yeah, just for the hell of it.
Yep.
It's like, dang. So he's kind of
and then there's the whole juxtaposition that he has with the werewolf.
Yeah.
And the box art, I mean the game art that they've come out.
Yeah.
Recently. So I don't know, maybe he's infected with some weird new virus that turns him into a fucking werewolf. Who knows?
The Z virus or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting though, because at the very least, these games are allowing Capcom to really experiment with new creatures and stuff that's a little more like, ultimately it sort of links to this sort of vaguely scientific, oh, it's this, mutation brought on by by this viral agent developed by Umbrella. But a lot of this stuff is just frankly supernatural. Like, the if we go back to Biohazard, like that entire family, like all those guys, it's just like they can magically replicate, body parts and, shoot bees out of their hands. Like there's a bunch of crazy stuff they're able to do in that's just seems almost beyond even the limitations of the virus. And this new game showcasing there's a lot of insect based sort of like kind of like particle sort of where a single like consciousness can separate into a million little flying insects and come back into being a person. Like there's just a lot of
it's combining a lot of supernatural elements, like stuff you see in like vampire movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, because
I mean, obviously, because it's set in Romania, of course, they're taking inspiration from Dracula and that sort of thing. So
yeah, and on that subject, the people that were in the dungeon below, are those vampires? Like,
I have no idea. It might be, or just I don't know. They were holding swords.
yeah, I mean that's generally like a thing that separates zombies from other things. It's like, do zombies just sort of flail around and bite, or do they, and like, or are they holding weapons? And if they're holding weapons, well, it's not really a zombie usually, is it?
Yeah, probably not. Some sort of ghoul or something.
Yeah.
Like, definitely taking a lot of inspiration from Dark Souls, that's for sure. With all these character designs.
Yeah.
Especially that big dude, the big ogre-looking dude with the big-ass hammer.
Yeah, I did notice that. That was an intimidating thing. Just kept swinging and swinging away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do wonder for that whole gameplay segment though. Did that guy really need to be talking over all of it? Did he really need to interject every 5 seconds?
I guess the way Capcom's structuring its presentations now, it's like it's a very Japanese way of doing things. Like they have to have commentary over the gameplay.
Yeah.
And like they're doing like a presentation style, like in Japanese it's called happyo, which is just like presenting in that sort of style, where like the creators or producers of the game are just talking over some footage.
Yeah.
As opposed to just kind of letting the gameplay like just run its course.
I mean, yeah.
So I don't know. It's probably something that management at Capcom had like decided.
This is how you're going to do it.
Like that.
Yeah. I mean, in a way that would make sense because it didn't seem like they were all that comfortable doing it. Like, didn't seem like something they were used to. The commentators and stuff. They're just kind of like, oh, I guess this is a good place to end it. Hardy har, you know.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the segment, it's like, oh, you know. On that subject, speaking of different commentators interjecting during it, I did note that one woman who was introducing. Well, I'm forgetting her last. She had a very interesting last name. It was like Boomhauer or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, she Boomhauser, yeah, something like that. Boomhauser. Yeah, but she,
never heard of her before.
Yeah,
I
haven't either.
Capcom or...
I'm guessing she does. I mean, I don't know why else they would have her up there. With the Cindy Crawford beauty spot, and I just dated myself extremely well. Like I just showed how old I am. I know who Cindy Crawford is, but she I did find it funny that after the initial like that first little teaser, the first thing she says is, "Oh my gosh, I've got so many questions. First of all, is where can I pre-order?" And I just was like, Jesus Christ.
I was just like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it's like this is the sort of thing, and I'm in a certain way I'm glad we're discussing the game this way as opposed to going through with the sort of like official like branded stream of it, because I can talk about this, whereas otherwise I might not have been allowed to. I just found it funny because Capcom, and I'm not trying to crap on Capcom, they've done some great stuff, and some of the best games to end the console generation and bring us into the new one are games that they've made or published or in some way been involved in. But there's just some stuff where it's like you really could just not try to push for some of these sort of more nefarious aspects of the game industry. Like, you know, it's like, well, let's push, like, let's try to like sort of subtly, like, or not so subtly, it's pretty brazen. Like, let's try to convince or like trick people like, oh yeah, you do want to get a pre-order for this, don't you? Ooh, And then
Yeah.
just looking at all the special editions they were advertising, I found it very funny that one of the add-ons for the special editions was straight up just called the Trauma Pack. Like,
Oh yeah.
maybe not the best name given the times we're living in, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, lot of
Yeah,
interesting
it doesn't
stuff.
seem all that great, honestly. Their special edition and whatnot. It's just like, I don't know. At this point, I'm just kind of like, I just play the game to play the game. I don't really care about the collectibles. I'm not a collector.
Yeah, and it's like just all these, and there's so many different editions, special editions. It's like, oh my god. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jim Sterling goes into a lot of detail in his videos talking about how a lot of them, like, people have to set up, spreadsheets to determine what each one actually has in it versus another, and how it turns out there isn't one that just has everything. So, like, for the really hardcore players, it's to like he's thinking it's to like squeeze more money out of them. Because it's like, well,
Okay.
you got to get this one to get this stuff, and you got to get this one to get everything else. So you might as well get both of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it seems a little more clear cut than that. It's like each one, it's like you get all the stuff from this one plus blah 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 blah. So at the very least, it seems a little more clear cut what little plastic knickknacks you get with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think just the the one below the deluxe or collector's edition just has a bunch of in-game stuff. It doesn't really have anything besides that.
Yeah, and that's another thing I wonder, like little extra bonuses and like quote unquote time savers and stuff. It's like I don't know.
And then they have the fucking max difficulty locked behind a fucking paywall too, which
Oh,
is
they
kind of
do.
stupid.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, for like the deluxe,
Wow.
digital deluxe edition or something. It's like, really?
I didn't see that part. That's that's pretty gauche.
That's just dumb.
I mean, at the same time, it's not the first time Capcom's done something like this with the Resi series. Didn't they have like an ultra difficulty mode for previous Resi games locked behind like specific versions? Like you had to get the PC version to be able to get it in Resident Evil 5.
I don't remember. I don't remember that, but I don't know. They could have.
I just mentioned because I looked like they brought out an updated, like they've got the updated version like for current gen machines of Resi 5, and they're saying like, ooh, for the first time on console you can play this difficulty mode, and I was like,
That's weird.
Anywho, but
Oh, Japan.
oh Japan,
So ahead and yet so far behind
yeah, well,
on a lot of things.
yeah. I mean, again, like this is all. Again, I'm not shooting at them just because they're part of a different. I mean, hell, who am I to complain? Considering that a lot of the, all the Forza stuff that I really like. It's like, I mean, immediately after the trailers for a lot of their games, it's like, oh, by the way, there's a standard edition, a gold edition, and like a platinum edition you can get, and here's all the pre-order DLC, and 2 season passes, separate ones that you have to buy individually. Like, it's not like, I mean, it's just a sad reality of AAA games in general where even the quote unquote good ones, like that deliver high quality products, regardless of genre, it's a sad reality of it. But, at the same time, it would be nice to see that be a little less normalized. Oh, well.
And then you have Cyberpunk, which had like a shit ton of stuff for, like in the standard edition, and yet it turned out to be such a bug-laden game that was basically broken on launch for like consoles.
Yeah, that's a bummer, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
really does suck.
yeah. I mean, I heard it still also had issues with PC, but again, I've taken us off the rails again regarding Resi. The one thing, probably the most important thing regarding its release is just the date. It's going to be mid-May, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's relatively soon.
So it's pretty soon, at least,
Not bad, yeah. I'm hoping to get the PS5 by then, though.
Yeah, play it on with all that next gen glory. I just continue to call it next gen because for all intents and purposes, it might as well be next gen.
Oh yeah.
For all the ability to get it and everything. And I'm hoping so too. I'd love to tag along for that and just play a little bit, or at the very least watch you play it through like my fingers, through the gaps in my fingers in horror. Something about first person horror is just kind of unsettling to me.
Yeah, this one doesn't look as bad as the other one.
I mean, in a way, it doesn't. Like, there's far less dismemberment.
It's more actiony.
Yeah. Although I did notice that there were like some moments where like he had bugs crawling out of his skin and underneath his hands and stuff. That was a little creepy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some people are gonna find that pretty hot though, because like I said, they're accommodating all fetishes this time.
Yeah, they're all the weird, like, gory, distasteful. This is very Freudian, this Resident Evil franchise.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I bet, really want Mr. X. And Nemesis
Mr.
and all those.
Hoverhands.
Yeah, Mr. Hover, exactly. Mr. It's a Trilby, actually. Oh, well. I don't know. After all the smack I've talked, the game itself, the standard game, the bare bones, quote unquote, bare bones experience, I'm sure it'll still be a complete and really crazy one. I do wonder though, because Ben Crenshaw, the guy who, or Croshaw, or however he pronounces it, the guy who does Zero Punctuation for The Escapist, he was mentioning about how it seems like after Resident Evil 4 came out and like changed stuff up so much that they were sort of trying to draw back in a lot of the sort of storylines and the stuff that he found contrived from previous games in 5 and then 6. And there are some concerns that, like, well, is this going to do a similar thing, bringing back, Redfield, and, is this going to link into something else? Like, I mean, ultimately it's probably going to be interesting, I would think. But, there are concerns that, about how Capcom's going to handle it, because certain games they've put out, like 6, have been kind of, mixed reception, shall we say.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, there's some hints that Umbrella might be back in the fray. Just because with the symbolism with that fetus that wrapped around the wreath or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the thing in the beginning before they started the game. They had that symbol of the fetus
I think I did.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of traumatic stuff. I blocked it out. I just remember the 7-foot-tall dominatrix with the wearing her best Louisiana, dressed to the nines outfit. That's the thing I most recognize. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's another thing where it's like, comparisons to PT. It's like, well, there's a fetus involved, and then Norman Reedus pops out mid-game. It's like, surprise! Hideo Kojima's doing this for us, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's wishful thinking. A lot of people have said that Konami should just sell all their stuff to Capcom, and I can't help but feel like that's the right thing to do, I mean, at the very least, the video game rights, Because what are they doing with it? Pachinko machines?
I guess so. I mean, whether it be Capcom or Sony, like they just need to give the rights to someone that'll make something. It's like at this point it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who it is? It's just like as long as it's not fucking Konami.
Yeah, as long as it's not a live service with a bunch of micropayments for like save slots.
Oh yeah.
Which is unreal. Oh my god. The storage model by the financial model of public storage being adapted to video games. That's pretty gauche. But anywho, I mean, I'm excited. I am a little nervous. I don't know. Maybe that's just general anxiety though, as opposed to by the game. I don't know. It's more, I guess, just like sort of what she was saying. I have so many questions. None of mine involve pre-orders, unlike her. But the big one is like, how is this gonna wrap into the third-person remakes like Resi 2 and Resi 3? Like, how is it gonna sort of wrap into those? Because I mean, they are ostensibly set within the same timeline, right?
No,
Oh, they're
this
not?
is way past. Yeah, this is way past that.
But I mean,
Like
like,
Resident Evil 7 is way past like Resident Evil 6. It's like it's all chronological basically.
well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's far away from all that, but it's still within the same timeline, right? Like, it's like it may be years and decades off, but it's still within the same like it's not like an alternate timeline. I guess is what I'm wondering.
No, it's all the same timeline.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, certain characters aren't there anymore. Or,
Yeah.
we got a new character for Resident Evil 7,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is Ethan, who's kind of like our self-insert,
Yeah.
like because they never show his face, and he's like not really that iconic or that like,
Sort of a Gordon Freeman situation, except he talks a little bit more.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, he talks when he's getting stabbed or getting his finger cut open or.
Oh yeah.
Ah. I mean, I can empathize with that.
My question I have is like why they thought our Everse was a good idea, because
Yeah, I was actually going to
when
mention
I
that.
saw that, it was just like, what the hell are they doing?
I mean,
they need to stop. It's time to stop.
I mean, in a way, I kind of like it, to be completely honest. Not because like I think it's going to be like some great leap forward for the franchise, but at the very least, like the way they presented it, like it's a freebie with Resident Evil 8, right? Like it's going to come out as a freebie with it. Like it's just like a multiplayer mode essentially, where you just play as icons in the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a deathmatch style sort of like game mode, but it's like it looks so janky. It looks like they made it with like Gary's mod or something.
I mean, yeah, it did look kind of janky. I don't know, but then again, a few of the, I'm thinking that sort of like because you're talking like differences in culture in terms of video game presentation, like because I noticed like showing the gameplay and like stuff you could do in the Resident Evil 8, like the gameplay footage, that seemed a little slow and like methodical how they did it, like just to show like, okay, there's this part and this part and this part, just to give people a lowdown on what's going on in the game. I'm thinking maybe it was the same thing with the Resiverse, trailer where it's like, okay, so it's, you can see this aspect and, because it's going a little slower, you can take note of certain things that they're doing. I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be a more fast paced. And I mean, like if you look at,
it's just like like arena type game.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Doom like gameplay trailer that they did at E3 before release, that was really slow and sort of deliberate, and just to make sure that you could see, okay, you can do this and that and the other thing. But then in the final game, and I can say this because I've been playing a lot of it recently, it's super fast paced. It's a lot closer in terms of speed, like in terms of the cadence of movement to the original Doom as opposed to the slow methodicalness. So I'm hopeful that maybe it's more of that and it's a lot more sort of fast paced and, run and gun sort of thing. I don't know.
I don't know. For me personally, it just looks like something that's maybe fun for like a match or two, and then I'll probably never play it again.
Yeah.
To be honest.
On that subject, are you still playing Resistance?
No. I stopped playing that like 3 days after the game Resident Evil 3 came out. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just disappointing as a Resident Evil fan, because like what we all really wanted was a Resident Evil Outbreak remake.
Yeah.
Because the really nice thing about Resident Evil Outbreak was that it was like basically a multiplayer Resident Evil game, but it actually had an actual storyline and different characters that you could use, and you could basically co-op Resident Evil.
I see.
Which is something that like you never thought could work, but actually did work.
Could it be played solo, or was it just like you had to be like it was like a multiplayer?
Yeah, I mean you could play it solo and like you could just choose one character, and the other characters were like CPUs.
I see. Huh.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
But like obviously the funnest way to play Outbreak is basically with friends.
Yeah, with the homies.
I know there's a really big like community right now of people who are like who have their own custom servers that are playing the original Resident Evil Outbreak.
Yeah.
Just on their PCs using like ROM, emulation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If they had just kind of gone with something like that, where they make something that's super cooperative and like story driven, as opposed to something that's kind of like, I don't know, like arcadey.
Yeah, something a little, would you say a little more Left 4 Dead sort of feel? Like where you're like, it's a
Yeah,
sort of like almost like a couch co-op sort of thing where you get a bunch of homies together or like a LAN party even, you know?
yeah. If it was
Yeah.
something more like that.
Oh, the good old days when multiplayer meant that you could actually look at the person next to you while you were playing as opposed to being connected to the PlayStation Network or Xbox Live or Origin
Yeah,
or whatever
exactly.
it's on live service, online service you had to be. Yeah. I concur. I mean, I was just really turned off by Resistance by like all the loot box stuff and how like some of them did actually give some solid advantages, you know, and it's just like it's just this pay to win stuff because and you know publishers know this. It's like if you make a it's so that you have to pay to get advantages that and you give people who pay more advantages sort of that sort of pressures people who wouldn't otherwise pay to pay it. It's kind of manipulative and again, this is another reason I'm happy we're doing it this way as opposed to like I don't know why I feel like it's almost better that it didn't work out because the Resi would not have wanted us to say this stuff. I don't feel like about how we stopped playing Resistance after a few days and how we didn't like the loot boxes. Eh,
All I'll say is at least it's not a gotcha game yet.
yet, yeah, that's a good point.
Because I can attest to how dangerous gotcha games are, because if there's one character that you really want, you will spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to just get it.
Yeah, it's just like oh yeah, and with
And
duplicates and everything.
Yeah, and it's basically it's gambling basically.
Yeah,
Because you never know where you're gonna get when you like roll for like a character that you really want. That's like a 5-star character
yeah.
for the game you're playing. And like for example, I'm talking about Genshin Impact. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like
I've heard the name.
Breath of the Wild with waifus.
Oh, well, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You just have them with cleavage and have them as anime girls that are totally 18. We swear. You know, one of those situations.
But yeah, I really hope they don't go towards that sort of model.
I
Like pay that game as a service model though.
Yeah, I mean, in a certain way, I'm kind of hopeful because they have gotten flack from. I mean, what we're saying isn't anything new. Like a lot of people have given Resistance flack for its loot boxes and its sort of pay to win, more pay to win mechanics, and just the nature of the way it feels to play and how it's how you just as you were saying you sort of got into it and then you just sort of left it because you just like because the single player game was more engaging. It was like it was a better package, like and with that in mind, and considering that some of Capcom's biggest successes have been like going back to what was popular back in the day, going back to like, a more single player, like, intimately like focused experience as opposed to, getting the latest skin for this gun so that you can show off to, Danks, so that you can show off to, I don't know, Blunt Slayer 420 on, on Xbox Live. So, with that in mind, I'm hopeful, and I think this game is going to just further cement that their biggest successes and the best way that they have to go forward is just to continue along this path of making just something that's more single player focused, something where you don't have to where there's items that you just pick up on the way there, and secrets hidden away, a little more old fashioned.
Oh yeah.
And I think it just also helps that a lot of their demographic, like, I mean, it's not the Zoomer Fortnite crowd. It's people that are like in the 25 to 35, age range, more like, probably, right? I would think. So
Yep, those of us that grew up with old school Resi, basically.
those of us, if you'll pardon me, I'm gonna sip from my Monster Energy drink. Those of us from back in the good old days when games were great, and stuff. So
Us gamer boomers.
yeah, so the gamer boomers. Yeah, back in my day, the pixel count was as big as the number of ports on the back of the console, and load times took us 5 years to load something that looked like it was made in MS Paint, and we liked it. But I don't know. I mean, yeah. So Capcom mixed bag. Like they've had some bad stuff, but when they're good, they're some of the best in the business. And Resident Evil 8, like sort of awkward and uncomfortable and weirdly like GameStop like advertisement as some parts of it felt like it was. I saw a lot that was appealing, from that merchant who really should go on an Atkins diet to to
Oh yeah.
to everything else. I'd be interested at the very least to like watch somebody who actually knows what they're doing, like you play it.
Oh yeah.
Partly because I'm scared of horror games. Well, you know this. You had me play a little bit of Seven. And I just
I'll just go into it with cautious optimism.
yeah. I mean,
Because
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've like the premise seems interesting, but I need to see more gameplay
Yeah.
to really get convinced that it's gonna be worth the $60.
If it's just Seven again with some tweaks, I mean, would that be good? Do you think? Like, do you think that's what all they'd need, or?
I mean, as long as it's a little longer than 7. 7 was pretty long, but if they just kind of make it a little longer, like 15 hours, then I think it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like, it might be a really short game for all we know.
It might be. And I mean, at the very least, like having it be shorter but more like tightly designed and focused might still work. Like that would probably be really good. I mean, it's better than that than have something like almost like overly long where it just drags,
Oh yeah.
So, at the very least, because, other horror games that were first person, like Alien Isolation, people really love that one, but Mike Channel from Outside Xbox, he was mentioning how he felt like the game, like, really sort of like, it almost like ended, like it had almost like multiple endings, it felt like, or multiple places where it felt like it should have ended, and then it just kept going, where it's sort of, So, oh well. I mean, regardless, I'm excited. Either way, we're gonna find out mid-May when it launches out.
Yep.
Hopefully on the PlayStation 5. Those got the.
I mean, definitely on the PS5.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean like us being able to get it. Play it on the PlayStation 5 is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I think consoles will be readily available by the middle of this year.
Yeah.
Should be fine.
Unless they storm the Capitol again.
Fuck no, we'll storm Sony's
Oh yeah.
corporate headquarters.
Oh jeez, yeah.
Give us our goddamn PlayStation.
QAnon goes over there. You see, Sony's part. They're part of the cabal. They're a bunch of Satan worshippers too. Anyway, not to get political, because God knows the true hashtag gamers don't like stuff to be political. But anyway.
Oh yeah.
So now that I've successfully isolated our entire audience and talked smack about Capcom, I mean I don't know if I have anything else to say, man. I'm just I guess I have nothing else to say until it actually comes out. I'm gonna
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see. And I mean, if people want to like check out I'm working on a Resident Evil 8 video myself, actually. So
Yeah.
if they want to just be on the lookout for that in the future.
Yeah, I'm stoked to see that, and I'm stoked we're going to be working on that along with a few other things. So if you guys enjoyed this, or if you see anything else on our channel that you enjoy, hitting the like button really helps us a lot. Subscribing to the channel, it also helps a lot. And if you want to help to make sure that we can get stuff like this out more often, and make sure that we can get it out with higher production value, a great way to help us do that would be donating to us on Patreon. So by becoming a patron, depending on which tier you pick, you can gain access to everything from like early access to certain videos that we make, as well as just being able to choose which videos we make next. So yeah, but again, you don't have to, and regardless of which way you choose to support us, we really do appreciate us. It really does help us to make sure that we can keep doing this, and it's just nice to know that what the discourse we put out there is adding something to the conversation for you guys. So anyway, yeah, that was us discussing Resident Evil 8 Village. Yeah, feel free to comment, and I do wonder, just last minute thing, it's like they're running out of words that match Roman numerals. What's going to be Resident Evil 9? Jump ahead before the game's even out.
Good question. We'll have to think about that.
If you have any ideas what what subtitle for Resident Evil 9 would match the Roman numeral for 9. Let us know in the comments. And we'll see you next time on the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web. Bye.
Peace out.